Well, hello, 7th grade. This video is going to focus on reteach on the inferencing that you guys took on Monday. So if you're watching this video, that means that you did not get an S plus or an M on your assessment. I will go over the assessment with you and show you what were the common mistakes that I saw, what are the correct answers, and also have some extra practice because you'll be able to retake the assessment on Friday. I want to make sure that you guys are getting these out of the way so that you're ready for the interim next week. So this was a text on apparently a boy, and there's one question and there's evidence. Now, from the start, I'm going to tell you that if you got this question wrong, like you weren't going to get the second question right, because if you make the wrong inference, you can't support a wrong inference with correct evidence. That wouldn't make any sense. So when you do these, you have to get the correct answer first, like the correct inference. Okay, so let's start with the reading. Edward waited anxiously by his window, peering up and down the village lane. He searched every direction, but only an empty blue sky stretched over the kingdom. So it sounds like this kid lives in some sort of kingdom, right? So just a connection. This is a narrative, by the way. It's a third-person perspective, so you can see how they use narrative techniques. Still no birds. His younger sister burst into his room. Is it here yet? Cried Lily. Again, when you guys do narrative, make sure that you're using words such as said, cried, yelped, hollered, stuff like that. And then here they say, so this will be kind of like a reteach for narrative writing, but also for inferencing. Not yet, sighed Edward, wiping away his sweaty hands on his shirt. It was impossible to know exactly when the seer would arrive at each house on selection day. It had to deliver a scroll to each of the village's 12-year-olds. So it sounds like this kid, Edward, is 12 years old. And it sounds like he's waiting for someone, and he's waiting anxiously. I can't wait to find out what your job will be, beamed Mila. So it sounds like he has two sisters too. Hopefully you'll be a village farmer just like father, added Lily. See how they're using these other words besides said? They could have said Lily, but instead they say added. Bouncing on her feet. Then you will get to stay right here with us. So it sounds like the boy's father is a farmer, and whoever's going to come see them, the seer is going to determine what kind of job this boy does. Bouncing her feet. So this is still Lily talking here. Then you will get to stay right here with us. Edward raised his eyebrows. He's like, So again, you should be visualizing this. He had hoped, as many children do, to be chosen to serve his kingdom as a knight. So he lives in the kingdom, and he thinks that he wants to be chosen as a knight. But looking at his eager young sisters, he felt his stomach drop. So you should think about, what is the inference here, right? His stomach dropping, he's nervous. It doesn't say he's nervous, but he's probably nervous or preoccupied with something. The castle was far away, and if he were to be called away to train with Sir Marquette, he doubted he would be able to return for the fall harvest. So it sounds like he helps his family because we know that his dad is a farmer. He is worried that he won't be able to return for the fall harvest. Harvest is when you pick the fruit, or harvest. Harvest simply means pick the fruit. Are Lily and Mila old enough to help father in the fields? So he's thinking, in case I get chosen to be a knight, are these girls old enough to help the father harvest? He wondered. And even if they are, what of their education? Like, what if they are able to be big enough to help their dad, but if they're big enough, they won't be able to go to school? Will they have to stop going to school? So these girls go to school. If I leave, so he's thinking, I have this responsibility. I have to help dad harvest the crops, the girls might be able to do it, but then they won't be able to go to school. A heavy flap of wings shattered his thoughts. An enormous golden hawk soared towards Edward's window, carrying something in its talons, his feet. A rolled scroll tied with blue ribbon and marked with official seal of the castle. So this is the paper that's going to either say that he can be a farmer or a knight, but they don't tell us. That's not the point. What is likely true about Edward's obligations or responsibilities to his family? What is true about his job in his responsibilities in the house? I saw a lot of students pick Edward's father has placed a great deal of pressure on him to become a knight. Now, you could have picked that, but there's nothing here that says that his dad is pressuring him. If his dad had said something like, oh man, I wish you can go out and fight, that's a little bit of pressure, but this says a great deal of pressure. There's no evidence to support that at all. Edward plays a significant and important role in helping his father with the farm labor. That is the correct answer. He helps the family with the farm because he's thinking, I don't know if I'll be able to come back. Maybe the girls can help, but then they'll have to miss school. So the evidence that you should have focused on, let me erase all this evidence or these underlines that I have here so that you guys don't get confused. The evidence that you should have selected should have been, this one is fine. This one could have been fine too. Because he's thinking maybe they'll have to take my place. And his place is a lot of work. It's a lot of responsibility. So these girls might be able to take his place, but they might have to miss school. Some students said that it was C. Edward is responsible for teaching his young sisters. That's incorrect. It does say that they go to school. It doesn't say he teaches them. It just says that they go to school. The inference that he teaches them is incorrect because he doesn't work at the school. He works at the farm. And then Edward is lazy and doesn't want to continue helping his father. Nowhere here does it say that. He's actually really worried that he won't be able to help his father. So the answer was B for that reason. Let's look at this one. Most of you guys, half the class got this question right. More like 75% of you guys got this question right. The inventor banged his hands against the work table, rattling tools and knocking diagrams to the ground. I can't get this to work. Again, this is a narrative technique. Okay, this is all narration, or narrative. This is narration here, where you see the person actually writing what's happening. And then this is dialogue. I can't get this to work. From across the room, XG3 swiveled his robotic head and focused his mechanical eye on the inventor, quickly scanning the creator from head to toe. May I be of some service, sir? Asked the robot. Isn't that the reason you invented me? I know, XG3, I know, said the inventor. But this device is so complicated that only a human brain could possibly comprehend its astronomical complexity. Of course, sir, replied XG3, who was able to process trillions of calculations per second. I would never be able to provide you with the simplest solutions needed to fix this. Certainly not, agreed the inventor, which is why it's backwards. Let me swap that out. There we go. The device lit up and immediately started smoking, much to the inventor's horror. Meanwhile, the robot hastily rolled over and scanned the complex device. I see the problem, sir, XG3 declared. No, I know what I'm doing, insisted the inventor, waving smoke away from his face. He pulled the wire and the device burst into the indigo-colored flames. What is most likely true about the relationship between the inventor and the robot? A lot of students pick A. The inventor built the robot to work out complex tasks that a human brain cannot. No, that's actually the opposite. The answer is the inventor assumes he is smarter. He thinks he's smarter, and here's the evidence for that. Let me erase this. The evidence for that is where it says this device is so, why is it so little? This device is so, that only a human brain could possibly comprehend the stomach complexity. That's one piece of evidence you could have picked. You could have picked set, you could have also said this one, I know what I'm doing. Okay, so he thinks he's smarter than the robot. So those are the reasons you have to really think about what is being said in the text and how can you support it. If you can't find evidence for the inference, then the inference is incorrect. Okay, let's look at some of the vocabularies. Select the word that means ordinary. Ordinary means something that is just basic, something just pretty basic. Okay, some of the most important inventions were not designed to achieve extraordinary feats. Some students said that ordinary means extraordinary. Those are opposite words. So here they actually gave you the opposite. The opposite of ordinary is, the opposite of extraordinary is mundane. Let me repeat that. Some of the most important inventions were not designed to achieve extraordinary feats, but rather to help people with mundane tasks. So here you have to look at this word. This is the word that gave it away. This word is the opposite to this word. The opposite to extraordinary is ordinary, and in this case is mundane. Mundane means just regular inventions. Joseph Gares Cochrane's invention, for example, has spared people many hours of washing dishes. In 1886, Cochrane applied for a patent for her electric dishwasher and later started a company to manufacture the labor-saving devices. Something that is ordinary is the opposite of extraordinary, and in this case, it's mundane. They give you the opposite. Sometimes they'll give you a definition. Sometimes they give you an example. Here they gave you kind of like an antonym or something that it means the opposite. Here they gave you a definition, so here they gave you a opposite. Here they gave you, I think they gave you a definition. The shrew is a tiny mouse-like mammal with an elevated metabolic rate. In the space of just 1 minute, it breathes about 800 times and its heart beats about 1,000 times. The shrew is also voracious, and they give you a definition here. It eats an entire body weight in prey such as insects, worms, and salamanders. So it eats a lot. Something with a huge appetite is someone that eats a lot. But you can't just say eats a lot. They gave you the word here. Voracious is someone that eats a lot. So here they gave you kind of like a definition. Or actually, it's not a definition, it's an example that they gave you. An example of someone that's voracious, someone that eats a lot, having a huge appetite. So that's why you got a low score, if that happened to you. I have a couple extra examples. Deep in thought, Detective Crosby surveyed the crime scene. So we have a detective. All the evidence of the burglary was in front of her. Broken glass, footprints, overturned furniture, scattered papers. Her guts, her stomach, and her experience told her two things. There's no such thing as a perfect crime, and there's always evidence. She was sure that the answer lay somewhere in the room, waiting to be discovered. She'd find it with care and precision. Just then, a man bumped into her. So we already have a word that kind of like, she's probably annoyed at this person because he bumps into her. You know, if someone bumps into you, you can infer that, get annoyed. Hey, he said, I'm Greg Henderson, the new forensic photographer. So this is also narrative. I'm here to take pictures of the evidence. I know who you are, said Detective Crosby, eyeing the man's crumpled shirt and sweatpants. So inference here is, if she's eyeing his crumpled shirt and sweatpants, she probably thinks this guy is a bit of she doesn't think very highly of him, right? Because he should be more professional about it. You're Mayor Henderson's son, but I don't remember seeing you in training. So she says, you're the mayor's son. So what can you infer from that already? She kind of dislikes him already because he's bumps into her. He looks disheveled. He's wearing sweatpants, and he is the mayor's son. What can you infer about how she feels about him already? And she says, but I don't remember seeing you in training. So this guy doesn't even go to training where you learn how to take pictures of crime scenes. I don't think I need training, replied Greg, smiling smugly. Of course he didn't need training with his connections, who he knows. Detective Crosby thought bitterly to herself. So she's like, of course this guy. Sounds like you can make the inference, right, that this guy probably got the job because he's the son of the mayor. Detective Crosby inhaled slowly, counted to 10 and exhaled. So she's upset. So when you count to 10, usually it's because you're upset. Where are your gloves? She demanded. Or she says, where are your gloves? She demanded. I don't like gloves, Greg replied. They make my hands sweat. Gloves are required, absolutely required for all forensic personnel as are closed-toe shoes. That's something she's saying every real forensic photographer knows. She snapped. So when she says every real, she's implying that he's not a real forensic photographer because he got the job because he's the son of the mayor. The photographer shrugged and started snapping photos, crunching glass underneath his handles. He has sandals too, as he circled the crime scene. So what can you infer about this, right? Which of the following is most likely true? Detective Crosby suspects the photographer might have committed the crime. There's nothing here that says that. Nothing here. This has to do with her feelings towards him about how he shouldn't be there because he's not qualified. So not that one. Detective Crosby assumes the photographer only got his job because his mother is the mayor. That's the correct answer. Detective Crosby believes the photographer is intentionally disrupting the crime scene. No, he doesn't know what he's doing. And the evidence here, let's erase some of this stuff. The evidence here is this one. And there's another one where she says real. Of course. Those are the two pieces of evidence that support the inference that she doesn't think that he got the job because he's good. He got the job because he's the mayor's son. So that would be the evidence. Select the word that means to turn over in water. Japan's March 2011 earthquake was the largest earthquake ever recorded. So there's a big earthquake. Nothing here yet about something turning in water, right? It caused a giant tsunami. Maybe tsunami, but a tsunami is like a act of nature. It's like, I don't think that's it. In the Pacific Ocean, which sent 30-foot waves crashing, so not crashing, into the Japanese coast. Even thousands of miles away, the strength of the tsunami caused small boat docks in California to break loose and capsize. Capsize means they turn over. They like flip over. So in this case, it will be capsize. Here's another story, also narrative. So think about it that way. I heaved the plates off the counter, narrowed my eyes, and focused on walking to my table. Wrong way, one of the other servers remarked. Unless you're planning on taking that food to the restroom, he chuckled. I quickly spun around. Then suddenly, with deafening clatter, the plates dropped to the ground, and food and broken dishes skittered across the floor. One jumpy customer squealed in surprise. I felt my face grow hot with embarrassment. I can infer that this person is I'm guessing they're like a waiter, and they're trying to take the food somewhere, or maybe I don't know if it's the plates have food on them. But let's find out. Then suddenly, with deafening clatter, the plates dropped to the ground, and food and broken dishes skittered across. Also, there is food on there, across the floor. One jumpy customer squealed in surprise. I felt my face grow hot with embarrassment as the other customers stopped eating and stared at me. Right? When you see that in a restaurant, you kind of just stare, right? You kind of oh, what's going on? Watching me as I knelt down to the wreckage of my lunch orders. Mr. Beekman, my manager, dashed out from behind the cash register and announced to the gawking customers, "Everything's fine, folks." He turned to one of the other servers. Joe, stop applauding. Oh, God, why was Joe applauding? Doesn't sound very nice. He hurried over to me and asked if I was okay. I'm fine, but I'm sorry, Mr. Beekman. I apologize, while blinking away tears. It was an accident. To my surprise, Mr. Beekman wasn't angry. Instead, he was remarkably calm. He told me that this happens to everyone and shared that he was convinced I will quickly succeed at the job. With both of us cleaning, the mess soon vanished. I smiled, thanks Mr. Beekman for his help, and bowed to Joe, who finally stopped clapping. So Joe sounds like a real meanie poo, but Mr. Beekman sounds like a nice person. What is most likely true about the narrator? The narrator is not very observant and frequently causes accidents. You can't infer that. You can't infer that he's not observant. It sounds like he's like new. He or she are they may be new to the job, and they're just getting used to it. The narrator recently started waiting tables at the restaurant. That makes more sense. Sounds like they're a new person, because it says this happens to everyone and share that he was convinced I will quickly succeed at the job. There's also another piece of evidence here where it says I heaved the place off the counter, narrow my eyes, and focus on the walking to my tables. Wrong way, one of the servers remarked, unless you're planning on taking the foods to the restaurant. So it sounds like they haven't been at this restaurant that long, and they're just getting used to it. So the narrator's close friends with Mr. Beekman, the manager. It doesn't say that they're close friends. It doesn't say they're close friends. Mr. Beekman just sounds like a nice person. But nowhere here, just because he helps them doesn't mean that they're close friends. That's his manager or her manager. You can't make the inference that they're like best friends and they hang out outside. Like, you can't. Next one. Select the word that means large. Farmers can use science to improve the crops naturally. For example, growing crops such as peas and beans can add substantial amount of nitrogen and critical plant nutrients to the soil. In fact, planting beans after harvesting corn can provide us so much nitrogen to the soil that the soil is renewed without the need for chemical fertilizers. Okay, let's find out what these words means large. Farmers can use science to improve their crops naturally. For example, growing crops such as peas and beans can add substantial amounts of nitrogen, a critical plant nutrient to the soil. In fact, planting beans after harvesting corn can provide so much nitrogen to the soil that the soil is renewed without the need for chemical fertilizers. This is a little harder to find, and I'll tell you why. So let me read this again. Farmers can use science to improve their crops naturally. For example, growing crops such as peas and beans can add substantial. Substantial means large amount. Like if you have a substantial amount of money. And here, they give you what happens to the plants or to the soil after a lot of this is added of nitrogen, critical plant nutrients to the soil. In fact, planting beans after harvesting corn can provide so much nitrogen, so much that the soil is renewed without the need to chemical fertilizers. So you kind of have to look around. So substantial in this case will mean so much. Let's look at the next one. Epidemiologists are, that's a hard word, epidemiologists, are public servants. So we're trying to find the word that says the cause of a problem, something that leads to a problem. Epidemiologists are public health workers who investigate patterns of disease. When faced with a sudden outbreak of illness, epidemiologists study the situation to identify the culprit. It might be bacteria in food, a virus. So here might be bacteria, a virus, an insects, or dirty contaminated water supplies. So all these are culprits. Here they give you examples of the culprit. Working quickly to solve the mystery, epidemiologists can save many lives. So let's read this again. Epidemiologists are public health workers who investigate patterns of disease. When faced with a sudden outbreak of illness, epidemiologists study the situation to identify. They're trying to find out what's causing the problem. Here they can just say the culprit, the danger. And they give you some examples. Select the word that means ends for a period of time. Something that ends for a period of time. Here, I think they give you the opposite of the antonym. Every January, the United States Congress convenes or gets together. In Washington, D.C., in years when there is no federal election, Congress generally remains in session until December. In an election year, however, Congress usually adjourns in October. Adjourns means leaves or ends its session in October so the members can go home. So adjourns, because it adjourns, people are able to leave and go home to campaign. If you need more practice, let me know. Actually, let me see if I can find a video on YouTube, because it's always beneficial to do that. So we're talking about inferencing. Actually, I won't do that. Your assessment is going to be similar to this, and it'll be on Friday. Best of luck. You're amazing.